Okay, welcome again, our video friends. And as I've reminded you before, if you have a prayer request you'd like for me to pray about, just let me know through the comments on YouTube or whatever, and I'll be glad, and I promise you I will pray for you and your request. And you don't have to send me no money. I don't want money. I don't do this for money. I receive no money for it. I bear the expense and the cost of all of it as the good Lord enables me to. But I'll pray for you. And if you have a request, let me know. I promise you I will pray for you. It's kind of joy to partner with you in prayers on your behalf. Well, we're going to get on into the Bible today. We're still in Revelation chapter number 19. Now, the section we're about to go into right now is called the Battle of Armageddon. It starts in verse number 17. And John says, I saw an angel standing in the sun, and he cried with a loud voice, saying to all the fowls that fly in the midst of heaven. Now notice where this angel is standing in the midst of the sun. Have you ever thought about that, how an angel can actually stand in the midst of a burning ball of fire called the sun, just like it was nothing, like that was commonplace? That's what John saw the angel do, standing in the midst of the sun. Hey, you don't mess with God's people and angels. They are indestructible. You don't mess with God. You don't tread upon the Almighty. You don't tread upon His angels. They are very powerful beings. I think one angel could very easily destroy this world if God just told him to do so. But here this angel stands in the sun, and I take that to mean exactly what it says. I saw an angel standing in the sun. Amazing. I've never seen anything like that. I've never seen anything or anybody stand in a fire. This angel standing in a sun that's so hot it warms up this whole world. And then it cries out with a loud voice to all the fowls that fly in the midst of heaven. Now that's a lot of them, and I take this to mean a universal gathering of the fowls. As I drive up and down the road going to my jobs, I notice all the time perhaps dead deer or dead cats or dead dogs or skunks, possums, all kinds of wildlife that gets hit by cars on the road and die. And usually right above, especially a deer carcass, you'll see the buzzards gathering, flying around, and they eat that carcass. God has designed them that way as part of the ecosystem, we call it, and the balance of nature. He has so designed that. For these cleanup guys we call buzzards, and there's other animals, of course, that are scavengers just like that, other birds and fowls that also eat dead carcasses. And their bodies are so designed that it doesn't hurt them a bit. That's the way they live. And then, of course, they too have their part in the food chain to keep this world purified. Could you imagine what would happen if we didn't have the buzzards to eat up all the dead animals and all the other scavengers that eat it up? Well, the world would probably become diseased and rampant with disease, and we would have a hard time having fresh air, finding fresh water. But these creatures that God has made, as ugly as they may be, are so designed that they can eat those decaying carcasses of these animals and not be bothered themselves. They go right on living like nothing's ever happened to them. All of my lifetime, I've seen buzzards, and like I said, there are other fowls too that eat dead carcasses, and there's never been a lack for buzzards and all kinds of birds like that. Plenty of them. They haven't died out no matter what. They have the carcasses they eat, and they keep this world purified. And it's amazing to me how quickly sometimes they can come and remove a carcass. Somebody told my wife the other day at one of her houses that there was a dead animal laying there. My wife was concerned about it. I told my wife, it'll be gone. And sure enough, we drove over there some hours later, or maybe the next day. There was no dead animal to be found. It was gone. Well, the creatures that eat those animals had already came and carried it away and ate it. That's the truth. And so, but right here, these fowls are coming not to eat the carcasses of animals, but notice this. We're going to read right here what they're coming to eat. And the angel first, notice this first, says, "Come and gather yourselves together unto the supper of the great God." The supper of the great God. And it is going to be a great supper. A huge supper when all those armies that march against God are slain by the sword of the Lord. Notice what he tells them that they're going to eat in verse 18. They've never had a feast like this. He said that ye may eat the flesh of kings, and the flesh of captains, and the flesh of mighty men, and the flesh of horses, and of them that sat on them, and the flesh of all men, both free and bond, both small and great. Notice that. That's quite a collection that these fowls are going to have for the great supper of the great God. And notice that the Bible says right here, the supper of the great God. And so many people in our day want to call supper dinner. But here we find in the Bible the word supper, the great supper of the great God. And he goes on to say that he describes these both free, both bond, both small and great. I mean, quite a collection of men that these beasts, horses too, they're slain in this, that these fowls come to eat, and they clean it up, and they devour this. In verse 19, "And I saw the beast, and the kings of the earth and the armies gathered together to make war against him that sat on the horse, and against his army." Well, they're going to be gathering. The beast and his armies are going to be marching over there to Megiddo. At this point, things are going to be so bad upon the earth, really there's not much of anything left on the earth. I'm convinced all the houses and buildings will be destroyed by the judgments that are poured out during the tribulation period. I'm convinced that the mountains are going to fall. There's going to be massive earthquakes. We're told the islands are all going to be moved. Surely there can't be hardly anything standing after this judgment of the tribulation period. The waters will be turned to blood, the green grass and trees all burn up. Death has been there, famines around. It's going to be a devastating time. I mean, a perilous time like the world has never seen. It's going to be a climax to this ungodly world. They're going to be so judged, they do not know which way to turn. There's nothing else that they can do, except the beast will gather them together. He'll say, "We'll fight God. We'll gather ourselves together. We'll fight the one who's done this." And he's going to gather them over together in that valley where many battles down through the ages have already been fought. He will gather them there together to battle against the great God, our God. And we know what's going to happen. They're going to lose. But he'll have the kings. We read one of the judgments was the great river will be dried up to make way for the kings and the armies of the east to come over to fight on. And so they can come to fight. And there'll be a great gathering of all this wicked and ungodly people that have been ruling the world at that time. They're going to try to put together the final climax of a Gentile world power to fight against the holy God. And this is coming. We can't stop it. But don't be alarmed at it, my friends, because we're about to get to the end of this book, and you're going to find out there's a glorious ending to it, a wonderful ending to it, and one that is marvelous, one that is outstanding, one where the good of all the ages is the victor, and the devil and his armies are defeated, and all that's bad is going to be defeated. Let's read on in this next verse right here and see what happens to him. And verse 20, "And the beast was taken, and with him the false prophet that wrought miracles before him, which he received from them that had received the mark of the beast." Let me read that again. "And the beast was taken, and with him the false prophet that wrought miracles before him, with which he deceived them that had received the mark of the beast, and them that worshipped his image." Now notice, what's these people here are being grouped together and taken. Note the word taken in verse 20. And the beast was taken. And who else with him? The false prophet, and those that received the mark of the beast, and them that worshipped his image. That's who all is going to be taken. These groups of people. Now it'll be a very large group. I have no idea of the number, but it'll be a large group of people that receive the mark of the beast and worship his image. And these, we're told right here in the last sentence of this verse, these, referring to those I've mentioned, both were cast alike into a lake of fire, burning with brimstone. What about that? That's what's going to happen to that beast and the false prophet. They'll be taken alive and cast into the lake of fire that burns with brimstone night and day. Now that's the doom. That's the end of the beast and the false prophet. That is their end place for a while. Now they're coming back out, but notice this, for 1,000 years that's where they're going to be. And let's read on here in verse 21. And the remnant were slain with the sword of him that sat upon the horse, which sword proceedeth out of his mouth, and all the fowls were filled with their flesh. All right, so we read right here, these that die by the sword, they'll be eaten by the fowls. The false prophet and the beast will be taken and cast alive into the lake of fire that burns with brimstone. And so and this battle's going to be over so quick. I don't think this battle's going to last 10 seconds. It's going to happen in a minute. I mean, less than a minute, possibly. When the Lord comes back from heaven with the armies following him, and it may be that we will encompass the world as we descend down to this battlefield.